What's going on, fellow flight sim nerds? My name is the Big Bucket, and today I'm going to be bringing you my very first video about Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. And today we are going to be learning about the pre-start checklist and the startup checklist for the Airbus A320neo, specifically the fly-by-wire simulations version. This aircraft is so much more in depth, and you can do so much more with it than the actual vanilla version. Short little disclaimer before we start, I'm not an actual real life airliner pilot, so only use this for the sim or whatever sim that you're using. Don't actually use it for real life because that's just crazy. So today we're going to be using a Fly UK checklist. I found it online. You can find it online. I'll put the description and link below. But basically what this gives you is pre-start, startup, before taxi, just all the way down from start to finish, what you need to do, and it's just short and sweet, and it helps me out a lot because I'm a visual learner. So whatever helps you, you can use whatever checklist you want. So let's get started. Alright, so before I get to the actual checklist, if you're not familiar with the actual flight deck itself, I'm just going to take you on a little walk around, show you what everything is. So right in front of me, we have the main instrument panel right here that has the MFDs, your PFDs, which is your flight displays, your status pages right here, or screens. So they show you fuel, electrical, flight controls, etc., etc. Up here, this is all your autopilot stuff. And then if you zoom in right here, you got your brightness controls, and I'll show you those in just a sec. Alright, so we're at the control pedestal now. So big things that you have to worry about right now is your throttle quadrants, your trim, your engine control switches, master 1, master 2, 1 being left, 2 being right, your parking brake down here, your flaps, ground spoilers, and yeah, that's about it for right now. I'll go more in depth as we go down the checklist. Here we got the overhead panel. If you zoom in here, we got all your interior and exterior lights. Interior over here, exterior over here. Got seatbelt sign, no smoking sign, emergency exit, your anti-ice, cabin pressure, and then big one they have to worry about is your APU, which stands for Auxiliary Power Unit. That's the little jet on the back of the aircraft, the very tail end, that basically it's like a little generator, like a little teeny tiny generator, and it also helps the main engine start. If you go up here, you got your air conditioning controls, which we're really not worried about. Right here is all your electrical controls, so gen, APU gen, external power, and your main battery switches right here. Up here you got your fuel control. Over here is your aiders switches, and later on I'll explain what aiders is. And then don't really have to worry about much over here except your crew supply switch. And then you got your ventilation, engine manual start, engine N1 mode, but that's more in-depth stuff. We're just covering the basics today. Alright, so let's get into the pre-start checklist. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start with the pre-start checklist. So first thing that we need to do is check the parking brake. Make sure that it's on, which it is. Next thing that we're going to need to check is the chocks are removed, which they are, and the GPU, which stands for the ground power unit, is connected. Ground power unit is a little generator outside of the aircraft, and the ground crew will connect to the aircraft to make sure that we have ground power. Next thing is thrust levers idle, which they are, they're at 0. And then our next item on the checklist will be batteries on. So the 2 battery switches right here, just go ahead and click them in. You'll start to hear stuff clicking and spooling up and beeping at you. And then the next thing is external power. So external power is right here. You'll see the little green available light on, so we're going to go ahead and press that. So you hear the hatch open on the outside of the aircraft, which means ground power is connected. Alright, so next thing on the checklist is the aiders. We got to set them to nav. So if you look up on the overhead panel, you got aiders 1, 2, and 3. AIDER stands for Air Data Inertial Reference System. They supply air data, so airspeed, angle of attack, and altitude, and inertial reference, and other information to the pilot's electronic flight instrument system displays. So we're going to go ahead and set those to nav. Next thing on our checklist is panel displays. So over here on in front of you, you're gonna have, where'd my mouse go? There it is. So you're gonna have your PFD. So since it's daytime, we're gonna set the brightness all the way up. Your ND, brightness all the way up. And then you scoot over here, those two little knobs that I talked about earlier. One of them controls the actual buttons and switches, and then the other one controls the top. Oh boy, the top brightness down here. So since it's daytime, not really worried about the switches and buttons. So down here on the control pedestal, so your ECAM upper and ECAM lower. Let's go and turn those all the way up. And then your backup display for the PFD, just turn that all the way up. Copilot I'm not really worried about, but I like uniformity, so let's go and turn this all the way up. Alright, next thing is going to be your nav lights. So if you go up here, oh dear, I lost my mouse again. There we go. So your nav lights, so nav and logo, just flip that switch up, and that is it for now. Next thing that we're going to be checking is the landing gear lever check down. So the landing gear lever is, where are you? Where'd you go? Oh, never mind. I'm looking on the wrong thing. The landing gear lever is going to be on your instrument panel. It is right here. It is in the up position. Flaps, all the way up. Ground spoilers, all the way up. And then your fuel quantity. So we got to check the fuel quantity. So one of two things. If you look on your upper ECAM, right here, you're going to be looking right here, FOB, fuel on board, 9.5 thousand kilograms. And if you want to go down here to your control pedestal and click on fuel, you can actually see in each different tank how much you have, and then you'll see down here the same amount, fuel on board. Alright, next step is going to be to fasten the seat belts. So seat belts on. No smoking auto. Emergency lights, arm. And then one little thing that's not in the checklist, but I always do crew supply. So that's providing air to the actual back. Crew supply on. Alright, so at this point in time, we can go ahead and check the weather service. So go up to ATC, and then we're going to be tuning into the ATIS channel. So go ahead and listen to that.
Kansas City Airport Information Uniform 15000. Wind 279er at 17. Visibility 10. Sky condition, ceiling 13,500 feet overcast. Temperature 7. Dew point 10. Altimeter 29.87. ILS runway 27.
Okay, so a lot of information at one time. So the one big thing that I'm worrying about for the pre-start checklist is the barometer. So I believe he or she said 29.87. So if you go up here on your instrument panel, you see the QNH. That's your barometric pressure. So adjusting that adjusts your altitude, as you can see. And then also you can check your baro down here on the PFD. So 29.87. Alright, we're right there. Alright, let's go to the next step. Okay, so the next step would be request clearance. So I don't have an IFR plan in here just yet, so go ahead, we can choose request taxi, depart west, request taxi, depart east, etc., etc. So since I don't have an IFR plan, I'm just going to go ahead and skip that for now. So the next step would be setting your transponder to standby. So I'll just scoot you over here to the control pedestal. So down here, transponder, it's already on standby. And then beacon lights is next. So go to the overhead panel, go to your external lights, beacon on. And then this is when you complete your departure briefing and close and check doors on the aircraft. Alright, so now we can go ahead and start the APU. So the three switches that you're going to need for the APU is master switch on, start, and then bleed in that order. So we're going to hit master switch on, wait 3 seconds, hit start, We're going to look down at the lower ECAM to see it spooling up, and we're going to come back up and hit bleed. So let's go ahead and do that. Master switch on, start, and if we come down here to the lower ECAM, if you want to look at the APU page, just hit APU down here. We're going to see it start to spool up, so we're going to hit APU bleed. That's all we need to do. Alright, so the next step is double checking that our thrust levers are idle, which they are. We're going to communicate to the ground crew, Mr. Billy Joe Bob down there, and confirm that the engine area is clear. Because once we start this up, the engines are going to start to push air behind it. Okay? So next step is all the fuel pumps switches, fuel pump switches. So up here on the overhead display, all of these, all 6 of them, we're going to click them on. And then down here on the lower ECAM, you can go ahead and hit fuel and see that all 6 switches are green. Next step is going to be the mode selector. So we're going to switch it to the right for ignition start, not crank, ignition start. Alright, so this time, I'm not going anywhere, I'm just doing the video. I would communicate to the ground crew to bring the tug and start pushing us back. That's when we would actually start up the actual engines when we're being pushed back. So, we're going to go ahead and start her up. Lost my mouse again. Alright, so we're going to hit engine 1. Select engine. We're going to watch it spool up. So you're going to be watching your N2. And then once you hear that, you should see the N1 start to spool up as well. And then once this stabilizes out on engine 1, we can go ahead and start engine 2. Okay, so we have an available on here on engine 1. So we're going to go down here and do the same thing for engine 2. Alright, we got engine 2 spooled up. They're looking nice and synchronized. So our next step is to turn our APU off. So very simple, bleed off, master switch off. And the last step is to turn engine selector switch back to norm. Alright, so that's it for this video. If you want more videos concerning before taxi, or setting up the computer down here, I completely forget what it's called, but I know how to do it. I will show y'all how to do it. I can't really explain it that well because I'm not an actual pilot, but by God, I'll freaking try. So if you want more videos, just go ahead and comment down below and all that cool stuff. So hope you have a great day, and I will catch y'all later.